and welcome to Stop the Crime on home based television with me, Alhaji Irbat Ibrahim. Sometime in February 2019, Ghana was one of 6 African countries that were blacklisted by the European Union as countries where money laundering was rife. We made the list, quite an famous one for that matter. Ghana was on it, Nigeria was, Ethiopia, Botswana, Libya, and Tunisia. And just when we thought the cleanup exercise within the financial sector would give some integrity to our banking system and all that, here in this year of our Lord 2020, the European Union has yet again included Ghana in a list of 4 African countries who are part of those that have been blacklisted: Ghana, Zimbabwe, Botswana, and Mauritius. What are we not doing right as a country? These are the issues we will interrogate in our discussion on Stop the Crime. We'll go for a quick commercial break. When we come back, I introduce our guest. Stick and stay with us. We'll be back shortly. Hello, you're welcome back, and we have in the studio a fraud and security consultant, Richard Kumado. Richie, good to see you.
Thank you, Bad.
Richard, I was doing a little bit of research to find out the legislation on anti-money laundering, and the resource that has been provided by the Financial Intelligence Center is quite informative. First, the Anti-Money Laundering Act was in 2008. Then it was amended in 2014. Yes. I'll quote the Act. A person subject to, I'll quote the Act now, as amended in 2014. It gives us a clear definition of what money laundering is. It says a person commits an offense of money laundering if the person knows or ought to have known that property is part of proceeds unlawfully acquired, and the person does a number of things, one of 3 things, but I'm sure time will afford us the opportunity to go into detail. This Frankenstein called money laundering, how would you define it from where you sit as a technocrat and a professional?
Okay, so to the layman, money is what we are talking about.
Correct.
And the laundering side of it means that just like your clothing could be taken to the laundry to be cleaned up, and they only go to the laundry when they are not clean or dirty.
Yeah.
So the layman will say dirty money that is being taken through the financial system to be cleaned up. But more specifically to what we are saying,
Yes,
money laundering is said to occur when a financial transaction has taken place for which the economic purpose of the transaction is not known, the legal basis for the transaction is unknown, the origin of the transaction is unknown, and the purpose of the transaction. So these are the forms for which the accountable institutions, which are the financial institutions or the bank, which are key stakeholders to FIC, these are the red flags we call that give them alarm. The money laundering has just taken place, and there are statutory legal requirements they follow to deal with the FIC.
Richie, you've mentioned one of 3 legs we'll be talking about as part of the Act. Subsection B says, as you rightly indicated, conceals or disguises the unlawful origin, disposition, movement, or ownership of rights with respect to the property, and in this case, money. What are some of the illegal sources you can talk about beyond drugs like cocaine and meth, and then human trafficking? Are there other sources that would make money unwholesome?
Definitely, when they come to the downside of it, you have drugs, human trafficking, kidnapping, small arms, and the end of it is money laundering, because then the money has to be cleaned up. But any money at all that goes through the process of transaction, financial transactions, that you are not able to establish the economic purpose of which the money was generated, the legal purpose of it, and the purpose of transaction, money laundering is said to take place. So therefore, between the financial institutions and the FIC, then you have three reports they have to send to FIC. One of them is cash transactions, which therefore means that you can have a genuine money being transformed or transferred through the financial institutions. Once you are not able to satisfy the conditions with which I'm speaking about, they have to file cash transaction, suspicious transaction, unusual transaction. So these three reports goes to FIC, and in that matter the FIC has the ability to investigate to determine whether really money laundering has taken place, and in so doing they have set a benchmark for which cash transaction could be sent to FIC. Initially when we started, we had a cash transaction limit of about 50,000, but considering the fact that this is a cash-based economy, there has been some review, which was part of the reasons why the Money Laundering Act was amended in 2014. But remember, the LI came in 1987, okay, and the regulations from FIC and Bank of Ghana came out in 2011. And together, the accountable institution, which are key stakeholders to the FIC, has a role and a requirement and a regulatory assignment they need to perform in helping the FIC come out with some of the positions we find ourselves in.
And of course, eventually, at the end of the value chain, is when the banks and other financial institutions here in the Republic of Ghana are involved. And therefore, the ethos of banking would mean that you raise a red flag by filing a suspicious transaction report.
And a cash transaction, an unusual transaction report.
Yes.
So these three reports go to FIC.
Okay. We will get to that, but still I want to ask, why Ghana? We are very, modest people. We do the regular stuff. Somebody gets a bale of clothes from Togo, sells and makes a lot of money. Somebody has a cocoa farm. They do this and they get money. I would want us to interrogate further the illegal origins that make Ghana a #1 priority interest of the European Union. And I want us to go one after the other. With drugs, we know Narcotics Control Board is supposed to have a very draconian regime to prevent the transit and possession of drugs. And from where you sit as a consultant, are drug barons still active in the Republic of Ghana to warrant this blacklisting by the European Union?
The issues for which they are blacklisting us, normally I have trained on money laundering for the past 15 years. Anytime we talk about money laundering, people say it's drug money. And I ask them, have they seen drug before? They say no. So money laundering, purposely for this discussion, it's not money that purposely comes from drugs. It could be any money. It could be your uncle gives you money, or you are a student in Ghana, your uncle sends you money from Benin or Germany or America, or you are a parent here, you pay your child's school fees in which of the countries. They are just saying that per the financial institutions regulations or the financial sector regulations we have across the world, every transaction that must go, there are certain requirements that you have to meet. Once you are not able to meet those requirements, then they will find out the source of funds. Then they have escalated to say the beneficial ownership of the money. So this money could come from drugs, it could come from selling of Kobe in the street, it could come from importing second-hand clothing. The correspondent banks, the receiver and the supplier banks, the customer banks, and the who receive the banks clothing on that way, when they do the transaction, whether there is treasury bonds or whether it's whatever means they want to use, whichever instrument they want to use, they are just saying that once those instruments, financial instruments, are being effected, we must know the source of money, the economic purpose of the money, the origin and the receiver. Once you do not meet those criteria, irrespective of wherever the money is coming from, they will blacklist you and say it as a money laundering issue.
Richie, Ghana, just like most African countries, is up to its neck with corruption. We have politicians who run shell companies and offshore accounts, and just as we found out in the Panama Papers, we hear politicians acquire property, apartments in Dubai and all that. Are you privy to any such information, and does it fall within the ambits of money laundering?
Exactly, because before the former head of FIC left the scene, Mr. Esel, one of the things we were doing was to bring in the real estate owners, or the companies that run the real estate, because that is where chunk of these monies go, where the guys buy the houses for maybe $1 million. They stay in for about 3 months, and they want to sell it at a knockdown value. For which they want to launder the money to get into the automobile industry, and then to get into some barbering shop or get into some boutique. Then they fly the money back, saying they have set up a business here that people are coming in to buy the money. So they move around. And in that circle, once you have the legislation taking care of the real estate, because we have dealt extensively with the financial institutions on the Compliance Association platform, they are key stakeholders. And Mr. Ese was working so hard to bring in the real estate companies. Then we will bring in the companies that deal with cars, because that is where chunk of the money also comes from. So they are very key players in that industry. And when you look at the cashless society we want to build, for which we have not succeeded, most of our houses are being paid in cash. And once people are being paid in cash, there's no financial transaction within the financial institutions for which there will be audit on them, and that is where the chunk of the money goes.
And then again, we have the issue of human trafficking, forced labor, and human organ harvest. There are cases where somebody is killed and their lung or kidney is taken away, and this is traded on the black market. So the origin itself has to be legal before you wire transfer the money. But does it occur to you, because I know that at our level the Republic of Ghana has put some restrictions on taking domestic workers to certain Gulf countries because they would be exploited and the money would be repatriated. Are these of importance to the FIC and YOCO and other regulatory state institutions?
Definitely, because one link to other, and human trafficking and kidnapping, small arms, drugs will lead to money laundering, because definitely that is how the circle is. So YOCO being the investigative body for FIC, definitely they are interested in that, and that is where the issues are, until we are able to address some of those issues. One thing about money laundering is the ownership of proof is on the one they are accusing. So when you go to UK, for instance, they have enhanced their money laundering act, and what they do is that they've introduced a new enhanced due diligence policy that says that you must prove the source of funds. And until you are able to prove the source of funds, so they can come and debate, you own this water, what is the source of funds? They call it unexplained wealth order. If you are not able to explain it, they confiscate the wealth from you.
Okay.
Yeah. In Ghana, we have a case that went against the financial institutions where either the Supreme Court or one of the courts said that we should not ask people the source of funds. And so therefore you realize that the accountable institutions that must be filing the suspicious transactions, the unusual transactions, the cash transactions to FIC. The food for FIC are these 3 reports. If the reports are not coming, there's nothing they could do about it. And I believe that we got blacklisted because we are not living to the expectation of meeting the requirement for which the European Unions are holding us accountable for.
And maybe I'll get into details, because when the money comes, eventually BOG has to get involved at some point. If it is Bank A or Bank B, the national headquarters may be involved, the branches at all levels may be involved, and what roles do managers at these levels, various levels, play. But there are some 4 other sources of laundered money I want us to look into: data mining, credit card fraud, and hacking into the terminals of banks. because we read somewhere in 2018 or so that some 400 million Ghana cedis was to be transferred in tranches through Universal Bank of Ghana, Universal Merchant Bank. And when they were doing it piecemeal, at some point they got wind of it and they had to truncate this. Is there enough sort of sophistication within the Republic of Ghana to mine data, find out people's credit card information, or transfer millions of dollars from a bank when the bankers don't know or the owners of the bank don't know? Do we have that sophistication?
Sometimes it happens. I happen to be the resource person for the Card Association of this country. We have some of those issues coming up once in a while. We have the credit card farm or auto farm at Kolebu. Sometimes the guys go around, they could hit it. We have guys who come to this country with just a normal laptop in the evening. Then by morning they are leaving with the same laptop. A lot of transactions going on around the night. I have done monitoring within Ghana or within Greater Accra Kumasi for a very long time. There are certain spots which are very of high risks, and so therefore the ATM machines there and people giving out cards need to be watched again. We pick them as to when it happened, but their monitoring system now they have moved from automation and they have added a manual to it. So the Card Association of Ghana are working so hard in that regard to stop some of those auto fraud from happening. Then again, it also starts from those who access financial instruments, and when you open an account, the process of handing you a card and the limit they put on it. Those are some of the issues they need to watch, because then customers of the banks will have to be reclassified and recategorized based on your risk levels and what you are able to access in terms of finance. Otherwise, if we jam up everything and we are opening out our system so open to everybody, then some of these things will happen to us.
Richie, we are in town. We know the things that are happening. A white tourist comes to Ghana, looks for a 5-star hotel. Maybe the person did the booking online. We've heard reports that because they are from a cashless economy, they pay using their credit cards. And we hear that these boys, the game boys, are able to collude with receptionists and all that. So after swiping, they share, credit card details with their handlers outside. Have you, per your work in your line of duty and what you do, come across such snippets of information?
Yeah, it do. It do happen in this country. It can happen to anybody. That's why, as part of what we do, there's something we provide we call travel rates. And as we advise customers who travel, even within Ghana, with the elements of the sophistication in system and the experience we have, we even advise them the hotels to book, the places to go, not to go. Otherwise, you can become a victim once vulnerabilities are detected. And therefore, it's also part of the system that the security agencies must work around some of these hotels to be able to pick up some of these things. The early warning signs is what helps us to be able to address it. Otherwise, anybody could fall a victim.
How much information do hotels have to share with the security agencies?
When I used to work with the BNI, I do what we call travel visitation. Anybody who comes into this country, I follow up to see where did they say they are staying. Are they staying there? Are they doing what they say they are doing? And you know that you can travel to the west and book at a hotel and your details are not sent to the security agencies. It's one area we need to educate the public that the security agencies are actually doing the right thing by demanding or requesting for the travel details of people who check into some of these hotels. Otherwise, their incorporatable nature or not cooperating with the security agencies create some of the problems. You'll be surprised to know that many of the accountable institutions have refused to file the suspicious transaction, the cash transaction, or usual transaction, for which some of the reason we have been blacklisted because they have problem with some of the investigators that investigate for FIC. And that attitude of integrity being lowered can create some of the problems it's creating for us.
For anybody coming into Ghana by air, we have what we call the flight manifest. By the time you even think of touching down, your plane touching down, the CIA, the FBI, and other, intelligence agencies would have gotten wind of you being there. But do you know that in Ghana, sometimes even the flight manifest has to be transferred manually to the various security agencies? Don't we have a consolidated, system that is shared amongst all security agencies, immigration, the Ghana Police Service, National Security, BNI? Don't we have such a common platform?
To the extent that when you come through Kotoka, the proximity of their offices, it could be shared. But you also remember that we have been saying that we have too many digital addresses hanging around the whole place. Your birth cert, your passport, your DVLA, your Ghana card, your everything is biometric. Couldn't we have a platform, a common platform where we could have all these ones? And so you get one at your district office. You could get your passport, you can get your DVLA, you can get your new voter's ID, you can get everything. But they are so divergent, and it's creating a problem for us. But considering the airport, looking at the closeness of the offices, it should be possible for one person to be able to pass on data from one person to the other.
I won't tell you who, but a former head of one of these agencies told me that a Nigerian came into Ghana. He had flown from Dubai. One of the operatives was suspicious. And of course, international aviation laws indicate you can't travel with more than $10,000 in cash. So the guy was too big on the top and lean downwards. So they isolated him, and then when they searched him, he had $400,000 attached to his body. So the airport seems to be a weak link. And you remember the boy who was trained in Yemen, the Nigerian boy, Umar Farouk, was asked to go through the Kotoka International Airport. Are there deficiencies within our surveillance and reconnaissance within the airport we need to look at? Because,
I think so.
Garbage in, garbage out. It depends upon the resources we have there. Allowing such monies to come to give us such a bad name as being blacklisted by the European Union.
I think vulnerabilities come as to almost now and then, because the criminals deploy some of their sophisticated weapons or instruments you can think of, and they also have links all over the place. So I think there's a need for the security agencies to liaise with themselves. Collaboration gives you efficiency. And once they can collaborate enough, they share intelligence on a timely basis, they should be able to stop some of these things. But then again, we have Terminal 3. And I think it should be more improved in terms of security. There should be more improvement than when we're running the local one, Terminal 1, Terminal 2. And we need to be doing test try as many times as possible to be able to pick the red flags that come through our ports. But then again, diplomacy and sharing intelligence with our counterparts across the world also helps us to be a little bit ahead of the fraudsters.
Okay. I think we will go for our next break quite shortly to show you a little clip, but we will assess, two more, illegal origins of monies that are laundered. And there's illegal bunkering. Nigerian oil is stolen, and on the high seas there are ships that are intercepted, or they are met on the high seas, and people transfer oil, and eventually they have loads of cash. How to wire through the mainstream or conventional banking system becomes a challenge. Is illegal bunkering, theft in the oil and gas industry, quite prevalent in the Republic of Ghana? Because of course the EU would have used so many indices to draw this conclusion that we should be included in the blacklist.
One of the things we must be abreast with: whatever happens in Ghana happens in Nigeria, and whatever happens in Nigeria happens here. So you remember when the current Nigeria president took over, he said you can't travel out of Nigeria more than 10,000, and later they reduced the amount. Then he said one man, one account. It's also part of the system to be able to clean it up. So to the extent that you could have some of those deals happening in Nigeria, it happens here. I happen to be one of the guys who work on some of the oil fraud that happens in Ghana.
Yeah.
And the monies involved are huge. And sometimes they don't even come to the shore, they transfer them off air, and speedboats are running all over. We need to improve security, we need to improve intelligence, we need to improve security intelligence, and that is the only way we can solve some of these problems. It should not just be on the land, but it should be air and sea. And once we are able to diversify intelligence gathering across all these places, it makes life easier for us to spot the unusual transactions and the suspicious activities around us. Until then, they will always be ahead of us.
Okay, so eventually the money gets to come to Ghana. It goes through a bank, and then these fraudsters, these game boys, deal with the bank managers who get to interrogate what happens from there. But then there is also the source that is as a result of proceeds from counterfeiting and dollar wash. We now go for a short clip for you to understand how people buy black currency on the black market and use chemicals to convert into $100 bills, $5 bills, $10 bills, $20 bills, and find ways of laundering the money. Those they can stay with us. We'll come back for the purpose of education, not for you to emulate what you will see in this video. We'll be back shortly.
This is a parcel from a client. A sample. Welcome to Universal SSG Chemical Solution. My name is Dr. Peter Sleeve, Cape Town. So open the packet to see what the client sent. And we have some black notes. Bring out the notes. Examine the notes. We apply the activation powder to boost the quality of the notes. The Universal SSG Chemical Solution is very active during the cleaning process. With the help of the activation powder, and 1 liter of the Universal SSG Chemical Solution can clean an amount of $10 million US. Take some few notes to apply the testing dose of the Universal SSG Chemical Solution. We now take down the testing dose, we shake it to have equal concentration. You must keep it away from your eyes. You apply now on the note. You now see how the power of the Universal SSG Chemical Solution can now see how the colors, the anti-breach level is coming out. You can now see clear the currency, $5, $10, $100, and so on and so forth. You now take the hot water, put it inside the hot water so that the note will be clear. Take the note from the hot water, put in the fish for it to dry. You have $5, $10, $100 bills. This solution can clean any currency: dollars, rand, franc CFA,
Ladies and gentlemen, the video that went by is just for the purpose of public education as we discuss money laundering and why Ghana and other West African countries have been blacklisted by the European Union. So as others are toiling and sweating to make legitimate money, some are making money in their homes using illegal means. You may join the conversation now via WhatsApp, and our WhatsApp line is 0503 021 781 0503 021 781. Richard, from your experience and the work you do, is this the easiest way of making money? After that, you pump into the system so that you get back wholesome banknotes to use for whatever purpose?
What happened is that each of the accountable institutions or the banks have a reserve with Bank of Ghana. And Bank of Ghana frowns so hard on counterfeit money. So once you allow counterfeit money to go through your system, you will be debited. They will debit your account and you will be fined on penalty points. So the banks are very serious with some of these things. It's not just the foreign currency they want to duplicate, but even with the local cities. What they do is that they walk into the banking hall and they check the spec of the counting machine. That's the only way such a thing can go through the system, and other than that, there's no way you will carry such a huge, but you can only operate with it in the black market where they don't have counting machines. But then again, you have other companies, cash collection companies in town that collects money for customers through to the bank, and their machines are also be operated in such a way that it can detect something such as this. So it's making life a bit more difficult for them, even though it's easier for them to be able to duplicate the money.
I go to a bank with 100,000 Ghana cedis. Only 10,000 of that is fake, and I make sure I mix it up with the genuine ones. And how are they able to detect?
The machine comes with it.
And immediately what happens? Will the teller raise an alarm so the police will come and pick up the person, the culprit?
Okay, so that's another issue, the positioning of the police at the bank. How many security officers do we have in a bank? In some other jurisdictions, because of the importance of private security, they passed the bill for private security laws, so you could have well-trained private security companies or officers complementing the work of the police. Because you could have one police officer taking care of a number of branches, and the distance between creates a problem. Wrong position of the police also creates problem. Then again, the monitoring system of the banks in ensuring that who walks into the bank, who doesn't walk in, then who meet the KYC criteria at the bank. Now, some of the banks have what they call remote mobilization, where they have a risk factor for money laundering. So they are not just interested in who brings money to the bank, but even bringing money to the bank, you'll be caught for money laundering. One issue with money laundering is that they will allow you to bring the money in. Assessing the money is where you have to produce better and further particulars, and that is where the sweating begins.
Does the integrity of the teller come to play? Because the teller perhaps has been compromised. And mind you, apologies to banks, many tellers take less than 1,000 Ghana cedis. And when you close, you go home. And on your way home, there are so many ways we familiarize with people in the bank. And so if someone says, I can give you 10 times or 20 times what the bank gives you, but at this time on a specific day, an individual will come in with this much, let the money pass through. Are there such instances within the value chain of money laundering?
Yeah, they have.
Or the buck stops with the manager at the branch.
Yeah, I've worked in a bank for a number of years. I've dealt with almost all the banks, including the central bank. What happened is that a teller received the money. Is it a bulk teller point or the normal teller? So they receive the money. The money goes through a process even before the account is signed on. Arrive from the account opening stage, we risk profile you, and therefore whatever comes in doesn't merit the nature of business. There's one particular key when it comes to key element when it comes to money laundering, with the nature of business. That determines everything that happens around your account. And once it doesn't fall within, we also raise the issue of cash transaction report, or suspicious transaction report, or unusual transaction report. Then 3 of these ones comes in. They may take the money from you, but you may not be able to access the money, because then you have to prove the 4 elements approved the first time. That what has been the source of money. You could even receive money from abroad, and once the source has changed from Germany to Italy, even Western Union does it, MoneyGram does it, you need to prove a little bit more that you are the owner of the money and you deserve to receive the money. So Ghana being blacklisted means that individuals or ordinary people will have a bit more difficulty at the banks assessing genuine money or otherwise.
Richard, we know there are young men out there. They are called big boys, and sometimes they are even comfortable being called game boys. The young man is less than 30. He owns a mansion and a fleet of cars. And they talk about wire transfers. Can you give us a little education? How does a 25-year-old own $5 million, for example? What really happens? What is the source? And is it an international cartel or a syndicate where money moves through the Caribbean or South America or other parts like Mexico where drug use is very... how do Ghanaian young people per se come by the huge sums of money we hear about?
Normally what happens in area of the money laundering is that jurisdictions are risk classified. So now Ghana has been reclassified as a high risk domain, and so therefore all transactions coming to Ghana will need to be scrutinized. We call it enhanced due diligence. So therefore even more credit cards could be bought online, but they have also revived some of their activities that you can give an address in Kokomemle and say that goods should be delivered to Tema. You will have to reconcile the 2 positions. The reason being that sometimes people still order credit card online. Some of these guys having some of these monies in town, the police may know or the security agencies may know, but they will say play on. Or sometimes they may say let the money go through, but let it be part of the monitoring system, because then they want to break the chain. They don't want to arrest the first person and let the other ones go through. They may have a free day for a day or two, but Big Brother is watching, and a day is going to come up when they will be caught.
When is that day coming?
Somebody determines.
When young men are flaunting wealth, I hear when you go to the nightclubs, Hennessy, very expensive wines. They even brag that when I go to a nightclub, I spend not less than $1,000 every night. Where do you get that money from? And you tell us Big Brother is watching.
That is where we are getting to, where I told you the UK enhanced their due diligence by saying that let's go for unexplained work order. So for money laundering, we could walk to you and say, explain where you had your money from. And you have to prove. If you are not able to prove, we take it from you. One of the difficulties we have is that why we are prone for blacklisting is that our economy is cash-based, and people travel across with a lot of money across Africa. Until we are able to make it a little bit more financial transaction based, where we can trace people, where did they get the money from and the source of money, it creates problem. Almost everything is bought here with cash, and people run with the money, coupled with the fact that we are not truthful. Most times people don't speak the truth, and it happens around politics a lot. I wasn't surprised the timing of the blacklisting, because political activity is just taking up. One of the issues we discover with the COVID-19 is that cybercrime has gone up, and the reason why it went up is that various fake apps come up in the name of cybercrime, and people who do businesses online has been compromised, or vulnerability has set in, and some of the monies involved are huge. Then again, they were saying that government monies has been rediverted across the globe. So I wasn't surprised Ghana and the nations you mentioned were blacklisted, because then they also send people to come and play oversight responsibility to monitor for them. And those are some of the facts that come up. Many of these guys will say they go to nightclub and spend this money. You'll be surprised, but when you check, it has something to do with politics. And it is politicians most time, because of political funding. You see, there's no law that specifically talk about who finance which political activity. And that is where money goes through, and that is money laundering, and that is where you're having many of the issues. I was in London in 2007 when Tony Blair was arrested for something they call cash for Anna, where some people financed the Labour Party, but their identities were not disclosed, and they give them juicy contract, and it got problem for them. There's a bank in London called the Scout Bank, where the Queen of England saves, and the guys went on an operation, pick an account that belongs to the Queen, and they were fined over 12 point something million pounds. Here, do we have that luxury, the political will, for the guys to go into the field and pick accounts and be able to run with it? You need your jurisdictions to be up there. You need your security officers to be up there. You need the bankers not to be compromised. Until you are able to phantom some of these things and create a lean way for them, you continue having some of the problems we have.
We go shortly for a commercial break, but keep your messages coming. WhatsApp on 0503 021781. We'll be glad to read them. And already there are some messages that have come online. When we come back from the commercial break, you mentioned politicians, Forex Bureau operators, some, not all of them, and those who run car dealerships. We call them garage in Ghana. Some of those two are used as instruments for money laundering. We'll assess those issues when we come back from this commercial break. Do stick and stay with us. We'll be back shortly. you're welcome back. You are still tuned in to Stop the Crime on home-based television. And today our guest is a fraud and security consultant, Richard Komado. And we are discussing why the European Union has blacklisted the Republic of Ghana amongst the nations where our banking regime is not too tight to stop money laundering. Some of your messages have come. Keep them coming on 0503-021-81. This one says, what punishment is meted out to a country that has been blacklisted in money in money laundering? And this is from Siska. She says, thank you. So we've been blacklisted.
Yeah.
What next? What are the punitive measures? What do we stand to lose?
Yeah, you lose so many things. Once you are blacklisted, your financial transactions will be scrutinized. It affects your rate of borrowing. It affects your foreign direct investment. It affects people applying for visa. It affects almost everything about you. And they declare you as a high-risk customer because of your jurisdiction you are coming from. So anything, even at airports when you travel, you are more scrutinized. And some bags that you could easily go with, because you are coming from high-risk jurisdiction, it increase your risks and everything about you. That's the difficult about it. And you could be blacklisted for as long as you have not met the criteria for the ban being lifted. It is not a position any country must be, and we need to work so hard to be able to come out of it. For individuals, you could go to prison for 10 years.
Okay, so it puts a very bad, a negative tag,
That's it.
a dent on your citizenship as a
That's
Ghanaian
it.
when you travel around the world. A little bit of politics. This is from Edie Tabora. It says, good evening, Sheikh Irbad. It's very serious under the so-called good economic wizard who claims, as they said, that they manage the economy better than the previous administration. But the fraudsters are their partners and banks, and they are having access to their business. What would you have to say about that? And do you expect the vice president to chant an adabra or wield a magic wand to solve this? And they say it's the head of the economic management team. Does our blacklisting have to do with the economic management team?
Usually on my shows, I don't usually speak directly to what politicians do and what they don't do. And I don't even speak directly to questions that involve individuals. But as a nation, for my whole life, I believe in the state. I don't usually believe in the NDC, MPP politics. I believe in the state. And to the extent that they have some with the state, all people who have the power to do so must work so hard as stakeholders to be able to get Ghana out of the place. And it goes beyond NDC and MPP.
Hello, Comrade Irbad. I'm enjoying your program tonight. Thank you. And keep watching. Others can also send their messages 0503-021-781 via WhatsApp. And this one says, please, if you want to receive 200 euros from Italy through a bank account, how should it be done?
Oh yeah, so you open a bank account, you go to your bankers, you have a relationship officer, you speak to your relationship officer, and they'll ask you the source of funds, why you are receiving that money. They give you the code for receiving the money. You just give it to your relatives or whoever is sending you the money, and the money comes through. Now when it's coming through MoneyGram and many of those money transfer organizations, there are requirements you need to meet at the bank. You need to go with a valid ID card. Your transaction level also determines which ID cards are accepted, and the nature of customer you are, that determines the nature of ID card that will be accepted at the bank. But I think those ones are no major issues. Walk into your bank, speak to them, and the transaction will go through. If there are difficulties, they will let you know.
Yakubu Garba, still on politics, because political hooliganism is taking place, looting of the poor is being done by politicians. And Mohammed Shamsuddin Sika says, I think this question can best be answered by Osafu Mafo and Baumia. Still playing the political card. And then this is from Amongebia Yahya. You say, interesting topic today. We'll definitely continue. And then Abdullah Razak says, someone told me it's because of the Game Boys. That is why we have been blacklisted. Is it a one-size-fits-all that the rampant activities of these fraudsters or Game Boys is the main reason we've been blacklisted, or many other things could have come into play?
It's a couple of it. That if that become a key highlighter, then it means that the enforcer of the law or the regulator, which is the FIC, is not doing something right, and they must wake up and begin to work. And in so doing, I pray that they will engage everybody who has the technical abilities to be able to do, because we've done it before. This is not the first time we'll be blacklisted. Let's get up and work together as a team, engage the internal control platforms, engage the key activity players on the compliance platform, engage the bankers on the Bankers Association platform, and they'll be able to find solutions to that.
You may now join the conversation via phone by calling us on 0501 484 671. 0501 484 671. And this text message is from someone who knows you. He says, "Great delivery, Reverend." Are you a reverend?
Yeah.
And this is Elijah, your organist at Holiday Inn. I'm enjoying the show. You know him?
He is in Dubai.
Okay, so we'll be glad to take your calls. So you can now call on 0501 484 671. Another text message is from Nathaniel in Osu. It says, "Good evening and thanks for your program. What can an individual do to stop this crime? Can one report this to the security agencies directly upon suspicion? If yes, what are the modalities?"
Not just walk into any police station and report, and we encourage confidentiality, and let's report more. When you see something, say something, and we employed our police officers to be as confidential as possible. Then again, because most of these transactions go through the financial systems, as for money laundering, money smuggling, kalabuli, and all those things, it happen across several places, but we are talking about those that goes through the financial system. Many of the banks should be able to upgrade their systems a little bit to be able to pick it up.
But do we have moles that have infiltrated, like from the state? We know the police has got police intel. Okay, there's Solo from Mamprobi. Hello, Solo. Thank you for making time.
Hello.
Yeah, hi, Solo. Thank
Hello.
you for making time.
Hello.
Yeah, hi. I can hear you loud and clear.
Good evening.
Good evening and welcome, Solomon.
Good
What's
evening.
on your mind? Hello, Solo.
Yeah, I'm watching your program and I want to make a contribution.
Please do.
Mr. Host, I think you are doing very well, all of you on the panel over there.
Thank
But
you.
one question. Yeah, good evening.
What's the question?
All right. My question is this. If somebody outside, those who've been rating us, can look at us from where they are, far away from the country, and so tell you that you are doing this and that, what stops us from we inside seeing it before they see it and stopping it before they tell us what they are telling them? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Solomon. Please, when you call, you can either put off your TV set or lower the volume on your set, and we can still hear you. Solo is asking, can there be homegrown remedies to tackle money laundering so that someone doesn't sit in Brussels and tell us there are loopholes and vulnerabilities in our banking system?
Yeah, as part of that, that's why we have the stakeholders meeting. You'll be surprised to know that each year I travel across the country to do what we call the risk assessment. I do the security risk assessment and the financial risk assessment. Bank of Ghana does it as well. And so therefore, when they meet at that platform...
Sorry, I'll be budging in from time to time. Edie from Tabora, thanks for making time, sir. Hello?
Yeah, good evening, my future imam.
Good evening, how are you?
Hope you people are doing well.
Superb. What's on your mind, sir?
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. What's on your mind? Oh, sorry.
So as part of the stakeholders meeting, they look at some of the issues that comes up and they address it. Then in addressing it, they pass the law, they have reviewed the law, they have the LI, they have they have the standard document from FIC and Bank of Ghana, and many of those documents, do you know, or to interest you to know that each of the banks is supposed to have two standardized documents. One is the risk assessment document, and the other one is the KYC document, which are standardized ones each of the banks need to have.
Hello, Nelson from Cape Coast. How are you doing and how is Ogwa?
Hello.
Hi, how is Ogwa Nelson? Hello, Nelson. Okay, I think we lost him.
And what the bank, what FIC does or Bank of Ghana does, that each year the risks assess the banks, new products, what you do, what you not to do, and as part of it, we have something we call the customer acceptance policy, which each of the banks have. That determines the customer you are willing and able based on your risk appetite.
Okay, we have Nelson back. Hi, Nelson. Thank you for coming back. Hello, Nelson. Nelson. Okay.
As part of your customer acceptance policy, you could be a risk assessed on it. So for homegrown, we've done so many things. What it means is that we need to enhance it. And to the extent that we still have vulnerabilities, which come as part of every system you have in the world, and for we being blacklisted, it means that the regulator must step up the game again. The accountable institutions must be working harder than they are doing. The justice system has helped us. One of the issues that affect you in this country or this part of the world is when the security agencies put the bad boys before the justice system and they let them go for whatever reason, which I don't want to believe in what Anan said. That
okay, we have a call from Tabora. Hello, thank you for making time.
Yeah, about this fraud issue.
Yes.
You said something which is very important about this young ones. Those you can see a young one at the age of 20 using a vehicle about let's say $100,000, and the person don't have any job to do. And how can we live in the country and see these young ones without any work using this posh cars? If I may ask, is it any clause of the Constitution we can let you ask this to put a question? Because at times I can't even understand what we heard. I just sent a message that some of them have links with the bankers. But when you go to bank, you can't even understand when you are in the queue and you see young ones will come behind and they will just go direct to the counter. When you are in the queue and the counter will save them, you will be in the queue. So I want to know if there is any I don't know if there is any caution which we see some of these young ones. You can even caution them. Being you are not a police man, you know that the person is not working, but he's using every posh card, living good, blah blah blah. Maybe you will say that you envy him or whatever. So I want to.
Thank you so much. Young men who sleep by day, go to nightclubs by night, and then by morning they use all the posh things in life. And can we start questioning people their source of wealth? But let's lump that up with this from Cape Coast. Hello, Solomon. Okay, we hope to get Solomon. We are beginning to wrap up. So can you question somebody their source of wealth as a private citizen?
if you have suspicion, there has to be modality in doing it. On what basis are you doing it? It could be the car you are seeing, it could be for the mom, the dad, the brother, the sister, or a business partner. It could be anything, it could come from anywhere. But we live in a society that is being controlled by law and order. And so therefore I think the appropriate place to take it to should be the police station. And we just pray that our police officers will be as professional as possible.
Okay, and this could be your final words. You mentioned a very important point, and the criminal justice system has to fast track the prosecution of these people, and so that we can stem the tide of money laundering. And this came from Philip Chassam. It says, good evening, sir. Enjoying every bit of this discussion. I love your articulation, and Richard has been so helpful. And so we hope to come your way next week from 9:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. on Stop the Crime on this very channel. Our guest today has been Richard Kumado. He's a fraud and security consultant. Thank you so much for making time.
You're welcome. Bye.
And we'll continue this topic next week. And do join us next week. Bye bye.